The supreme, profound, and sublime Dharma is difficult to encounter in a billion eons. Now I see it, hear it, receive it, and kept it. I vow to attain the true meaning of the Tathagata. In order to liberate all sentient beings, let us generate supreme bodhicitta. Now, journey to the West. After we arrived in Hawaii on the 17th, I believe there was some time difference. I think we arrived on the 17th, and then on the 18th morning was the First Dharma Transmission given by Phuntsok Rinpoche. And Phuntsok Rinpoche conferred the Bodhisattva vow ceremony at Nechon Dorje Drayang Ling, the Nechon Monastery or the Wood Valley Temple. At that time, the host center first offered some auspicious verses for Phuntsok Rinpoche and made some auspicious introduction. The host at that time was a Westerner. He then said that we have this incredible, unique karma to be together here on this auspicious occasion. His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche is unable to stay here for an extended period of time. Rather, he only had 4 days. We started on the 16th, 17th, 18th, and then 19th and 21st. 22nd, so it was from 18th to the 22nd, that was 4 days. He continued to say that we shall fully embrace the Dharma teachings during the course of the next short but precious 4 days and make a firm commitment to uphold and practice the teachings, since this opportunity is quite rare. And then he introduced Phuntsok Rinpoche by saying that in the land of Tibet, all of those disciples, in order to receive the Dharma teachings of Phuntsok Rinpoche, they would have to endure great hardship to take a long journey from India and other parts of the regions of Tibet to areas where Phuntsok Rinpoche resides. There were times when Phuntsok Rinpoche when some disciples traveled all the way from India, I think back in 1989 and 91 and 92, there were disciples traveled all the way from India, and Phuntsok Rinpoche had bestowed the Dharma of Dakini Nintik to Khandru Nintik to the disciples for 100 days. The host continued to say that it is not only quite hard to go to Larangar, but even more challenging to stay there because it was very cold and impoverished. Nonetheless, individuals who seek the Dharma are willing to go through a great deal of difficulty just to be able to hear teachings from His Holiness in person. Now, thanks to our past aspirations and prayers, all of us here are able to meet Phuntsok Rinpoche with such ease and sit here comfortably, seeing Phuntsok Rinpoche's majestic face and hearing his nectar-like Dharma teachings. Those people who met Phuntsok Rinpoche in person, they must have had made great auspicious connections to Phuntsok Rinpoche, including all of you who are reading this book. Those of you who had met him, of course, and those of you who are reading this book because you are making auspicious connections to the Dharma teachings of Phuntsok Rinpoche, then it is just like you have met him. If you can study it, read it carefully, then it is no other than receiving the Dharma teachings from Phuntsok Rinpoche. It is only a difference of time and a difference of whether sitting in front of him or or not. It is similar to speak of the Buddha's teachings as well. When the Buddha gave Dharma teachings 2,500 years ago, though we cannot sit in front of the Buddha right now, we still have the opportunities to read the Buddha's teachings and still study and inherit the spirit of the Buddha from the texts. So, even though you lead a busy life and have a lot of obligations, you must put everything on hold for these few days so that you can benefit fully from this series of teachings. The time to be with such a reverend master such as Phuntsok Rinpoche is short, but so precious that we must abandon worldly ambitions and give the teachings our undivided attention. We have to spend the time and we have to very carefully listen to the Dharma teachings in front of such a great master. Also be aware that a great numbers of Buddhists are here together to receive the Dharma, and all of you need to maintain a virtuous intention with the same hope that the Dharma we're going to receive will be firmly upheld and extensively disseminated. And Phuntsok Rinpoche, while he was sitting on the Dharma throne, he started to compassionately, while sitting graciously with compassion on the Dharma throne, Phuntsok Rinpoche started to commence the transmission. And first, Phuntsok Rinpoche spontaneously sang an auspicious verse that we had never heard before. He said that the dome of sky is full of rainbows spread by auspicious celestial maidens. The auspicious ground is filled with people who enjoy the 10 virtues. The auspicious location completes the peaceful and wrathful mandalas. May auspiciousness be perfected and ever increase. The word auspicious is used in the Tibetan verse is so skillful that usually it takes us a very long period of time to speak of this, because you can see that the auspiciousness is very much aligned and in a way that it sounds very poetic. When you study poetry, in fact, it takes us usually a very long period of time to write a beautiful verse like that. But Phuntsok Rinpoche just spontaneously sang this. He didn't specifically prepare for it. How he usually would prepare for the teachings is just if he were to give long teachings, since he couldn't read at that time with his eyes. So he would ask us to make recordings. But other than that, he didn't need to prepare much. Usually he would, and then he wished everyone Jasidele and explained the verse. Jasidele means auspiciousness. And then Phuntsok Rinpoche explained, you have sung some auspicious verses for me before you received the teachings. Therefore, I also chanted an auspicious verse for you before I impart the Dharma teachings. He then explained, what does this verse mean? The opening sentence states that the auspicious celestial maidens are deeply joyful about this special and auspicious occasion. So they spread colorful clouds and dazzling rainbows, which are very auspicious. The dazzling rainbows and colorful clouds fills the entire space. Hawaii is renowned as the city of rainbows. The rainbows are quite rare, really, because there was an occasion when we saw the rainbows at the time of arriving in Hawaii, and then second morning, the rainbow then appeared again. I didn't specifically write about this in the book, but that was the context. The second sentence means that after turning the wheel of Dharma at this auspicious location, you will delightedly carry out the 10 virtuous deeds. This island, since this is an island, so lots of people would eat seafood, and in that way it is not that virtuous, but still everyone delights in carrying out the 10 virtuous deeds. That's stated by Phuntsok Rinpoche, and it says that the third one is Hawaii completes the science of peaceful and wrathful, the peaceful mandala, because it is a place like the blissful Pure Land Sukhavati. It is also endowed with the science of wrathful mandala because it features fiery volcanoes. The last sentence points out that this location is quite fortunate. May this auspiciousness last, spread, and ever increase. May everything be complete, always fortunate and sublime. There are lots of words of auspiciousness. He continued to say that I did not prepare this verse in advance. It just came to me on the spur of the moment. I was instantly inspired after hearing your beautiful and auspicious chanting, and I spontaneously sang this song of good fortune for you. It was really fortunate that I recorded this, and there was a recording. Otherwise, it would be very difficult to record this right away at that moment, since it passed by so quick, and it was just the spur of the moment. Everyone was thrilled upon hearing it.
一般西方人是比较理性的，就不容易就是大动的，就是不是很那种的。
There was some internet interruption there, and then let's begin. Then, on the meadow in front of the temple, a few peacocks were leisurely roaming about, and then they would sing loudly and crisply. It sounds like their piercing calls were also remarking such an auspicious moment. I felt that they have many peacocks there, and a few years ago, some of our fellow Sangha members went there, and when I asked them whether they saw some peacocks, and they said yes, there were still many peacocks over there. Following that, Phuntsok Rinpoche then officially bestowed the Bodhisattva vow. He then made some homage verses and paid prostrations. He would usually use many different homage verses. I will not recite them, but usually it was then the homage, and then at the end it was the rededication of merit. Usually at each of the beginning of each classes, Phuntsok Rinpoche would make homage to the root gurus and the Shakyamuni Buddha, and then Pamasambhava, and then Longchenpa, Mipa Rinpoche, the three roots, Manjushri. And then there is an invitation verse. An invitation verse to invite all beings to listen to the Dharma. Though Phuntsok Rinpoche would recite those at the beginning of each of the Dharma teachings, but it only included in this one, not for the rest of the class, for the rest of the lessons given by Phuntsok Rinpoche. And then he continued to talk about the 5 perfections: the perfect time, perfect place, perfect teaching, and the perfect teacher, and the perfect retinue. The 5 perfections. You probably also feel that at times of doing transcripts of the Dharma teachings of people would be very difficult. But I personally really felt that Phuntsok Rinpoche's Dharma teachings were rather very complete itself. In the past, I never felt that his teachings were that complete, but when I started to work on it, I deeply was surprised that how very complete Phuntsok Rinpoche's speech was. Just simply by transcribing them, I didn't need to make much changes. The perfect time, Phuntsok Rinpoche talked about the particular time, the Sagadawa month, was the Buddha's birth, was the month which the Buddha's birth, enlightenment, and nirvana took place. So this is the month when the Buddha's enlightened activities began and ended. So it is the most auspicious period of the year. On top of that, when Phuntsok Rinpoche said that right before I came to Hawaii, we just held a Grand Dharma Assembly of Sukhavati, in which 300,000 Tibetans and more than 10,000 monastics gathered and made aspiration to be reborn in Sukhavati. This auspicious gathering marked a favorable beginning because everyone present planted the seed to be reborn in the Western Pure Land of Sukhavati. It is to make an auspicious connection to Sukhavati. When Phuntsok Rinpoche went to the West, I believe that was his way of making connections to sentient beings so that the beings would make auspicious connection to be reborn in Sukhavati. And then the perfect place, just after the grand gathering, I came to United States. United States is one of the most powerful countries in the world to teach you the Dharma. This interdependent arising is very auspicious, so I'm deeply joyful. And then the third perfection is the perfect teaching. In terms of the Dharma, I am especially pleased, although there are many good and wonderful religions in the world that brings people peace and happiness. Being Buddhists, we're very fortunate to be able to encounter the Dharma and be aware of its value in that the Dharma can bring us permanent peace and happiness. Such awareness is a sign of understanding the significance of the excellent kalpa. Most Buddhists are well aware of this important fact, but this understanding does not come from the blind faith. We should not simply say that Buddhism is very beneficial because I'm Buddhist. Rather, it is to be aware of the value of Dharma and the benefits that Dharma brings. Although the Hinayana path that leads to self-liberation is also worthwhile, its motivation is only for the self-liberation. Comparatively, the Mahayana pursuit is much grander because it is motivated by the mind to benefit all sentient beings instead of just focusing on personal liberation. To attain liberation and to also benefit sentient beings, also on top of that, we're fortunate to follow the Mahayana path, especially even more fortunate for us to meet the Vajrayana or the sacred Mantrayana, which is the pinnacle of Mahayana that has the potential to enable us to recognize the nature of mind to quickly achieve full enlightenment in a single lifetime. We're so very lucky to have all these coincidences. The perfect teacher. Personally, I encountered Buddhism at birth and began to give Dharma teachings at the age of 14 and have been carrying on this undertaking ever since. Now, the year Phuntsok Rinpoche went to United States to give Dharma teachings was when he was 60 years old, and he would have been given Dharma teachings for 46 years. And Phuntsok Rinpoche passed away at the age of 71, and he had been teaching for 57 years. Many of the Dharma teachers may say that, well, I am only a mundane being, and I cannot compare to Phuntsok Rinpoche. Maybe some of you would think in such a way. Anyhow, Phuntsok Rinpoche then continued to say that I used to be quite adept at teaching. However, now as I'm getting older, my health has declined and my eyes no longer see texts clearly. Therefore, I feel that the quality of my teaching decreases in such a situation. But Phuntsok Rinpoche really was just being very humble. He continued to say that I had a very little chance to learn about politics, technologies, and traditions of the different Western countries. I do not even know the eating habits of yours. Therefore, I am a little embarrassed that the way I explain Dharma may fail your expectations and cannot satisfy your interest. Phuntsok Rinpoche is being very humble, saying that I don't know too much about this. And then he continued to say that if I make any mistakes, you can correct me. And I can only explain this to be the result of karma from our previous lives. The perfect retinue is that today most of you are Buddhists from different countries and nationalities, and you all have a certain level of faith and intelligence. And these are the 5 kinds of perfection. Maybe we should stop here. What time is it? Now, in terms of the common practices or common preliminaries, before the actual practice, I would like to get into the topic of the difficulty of obtaining a human body. Now that we have already gained the precious human body that has the freedom and potentials to practice the Dharma, it is very rare. Why is that? Because firstly, it is rare in terms of its cause. The human body is the result of accumulating merit, abstaining from non-virtue, and practicing virtue throughout numerous lifetimes. It is not obtained throughout other means. The other means. Secondly, this can be illustrated by an analogy. If we were to throw beans onto a wall, the chances of a single bean sticking on the wall is very slim. However, the chance of getting a human body is even less than that. It is even more rare than that. Thirdly, a human body is very rare in terms of its quantity. The Buddha taught in the sutra that the number of people who practice non-virtuous activities is equivalent to the number of dust particles on the entire earth, while the number of people who have attained the perfect human body and practice virtuous deeds is equivalent to the number of dust particles on a thumbnail, on the nail of the thumb. Having obtained such a rare human body is of great significance. If you want to gain long life, health, wealth, and fame in this life, it is possible for you to have all of these by relying on this human body. Moreover, if you want to engage in Dharma, practicing for welfare of future lifetimes, and eventually attain the inconceivable Buddhahood that is free from any suffering, both physically and mentally, it is also possible for you to accomplish this goal by utilizing this particular body. However, when one is endowed with such a precious body, if one does not seize the opportunity by all means to practice the Dharma for the benefit of self and others, one may quickly lose it because death may befall at any time. This is the impermanence of life. At the moment of death, one will certainly drift to other realms under the force of karma. This is the infallible karmic law. At this time, there would be no freedom to practice virtuous deeds and no opportunity to seek happiness. This is samsara, the repetitive cycle of frustration and suffering. Therefore, when we are still free and at ease right now, right at this moment, we should practice pure and wholesome deeds. As for how to perform virtuous deeds, our founding teacher, that is Buddha Shakyamuni, out of his great loving kindness and compassion, taught many methods and compared them respectively to ordinary metal, gold, diamonds, and wish-fulfilling jewels. Among these practices, the most supreme are those that are like wish-fulfilling jewels. So, out of many methods that the Buddha had taught, which one would you prefer? The Phuntsok Rinpoche then asked, the average, the medium, or the better, or the best? The audience then all answered the best. Then everyone laughed. Well, since you want to practice the best Dharma, let me tell you, among the 84,000 teachings of the Dharma, of the Buddha's Dharma, there is nothing better than the bodhicitta and the great perfection. Bodhicitta is the teaching that all Mahayana practitioners can practice. The great perfection, on the other hand, is the Vajrayana teaching of sacred mantra, which does not belong to the Mahayana teachings, but it can be practiced only by those of particular sharp faculties and is not applicable to all Mahayana practitioners. Do you want to practice both of them or just one? At that time, the audience, most of them would raise their hands and say both, and everyone laughed over there. Phuntsok Rinpoche said, very good, it is excellent that if you want to practice both of them. In fact, most of the great masters in the land of Tibet practice these two together. This is really crucial to remember. I really hope that a majority of you would place your attention to these two, bodhicitta and maha-ati. These two are really important to practice. Phuntsok Rinpoche used such a skillful means, just like showing a movie, and displayed these two great methods to the audience. Indeed, the great masters of Tibet, all of the great masters that we had relied on, the two most important teachings they adopt is firstly bodhicitta, and the second one is great perfection, maha-ati. If you were to think that you're the disciple of Phuntsok Rinpoche, are the two most important Dharma practices that in your heart, bodhicitta and great perfection or not? And Phuntsok Rinpoche said, it is very excellent that you have such aspiration. Today I'm here to first introduce bodhicitta and then give you the bodhisattva vow. And then Phuntsok Rinpoche in the next part would talk about the qualities of bodhicitta and then would bestow the bodhisattva vow. Let us stop here today. Tomorrow we will still have class, that is Saturday.